everyone, I'm Socine and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do something a little different today in that I'm not necessarily taking you on a sewing journey, but I'm going to teach one of my favorite topics in sewing, how to draft a pattern. And this was done with the draping method, and it's surprisingly easy and, in my opinion, a complete game changer. It's something that while it's taught in a lot of fashion schools, in my case, since I never went to fashion school, I actually taught it myself using a lot of books, watching a lot of videos, and just mishmashing a lot of different things, but I think it works really well. This has long been my favorite lecture to give at different conventions I go to because there's a magic to doing it in person. Like, people will call out a certain thing that they want me to make and I'll just draft it on the spot. But I thought it was about time to do it on my channel as well. There are a lot of other ways to draft patterns, including the patterning method that a lot of tailors use, but this is just the way that I happen to do it because it works for me. Now, in order to get started, let's talk about the different tools you'll need. Now, the biggest and most important thing that you need is a dress form that is very close to your own body. There are a lot of ways to get one, and they're not really that expensive. For instance, one of my favorite methods is as cheap as 15 bucks. So I'll discuss all of this. Some thin tape about 1/8 of an inch wide. I use some paper tape. You can get it on Amazon, and I'll link that one below. Some cheap muslin. I suggest a white or ivory color. If you can't find cheap muslin, I suggest old sheets that you get from thrift stores. It doesn't really matter as long as it doesn't have much stretch and it's pretty pale in color. Lots of pins and a pencil. Now let's talk about the first ingredient again, the dress form. Confession, I've probably tried every single type of dress form on the market, the quote-unquote adjustable ones, the shop ones that you see professional dressmakers use, like the Wolf, or like the ones from the Shop Company, and also mannequins. Honestly, I hate all three of these that I just mentioned because they don't really work for what I need to do. Why do I hate them? First off, they are not compressible, so you can't corset it up. This means that none of these are particularly very good for period gowns because most period dresses you need to have some sort of shape. And the shape is like 90% of the charm of the dress, in my opinion. And it's hard to get it right if there's no give so that you can corset it up. Secondly, they are standard dress sizes, and we all know standard dress sizes really fit no one. And if you're a larger size, you're going to be padding it up, and that's a whole nother adventure in of itself. As for standard dress sizes, as you go up in size, so does the torso length and height. So you can end up with a torso that is far too long and still not wide enough for you. Moreover, if you're a smaller size, you won't get it to compress right. So overall, I don't think they work that well, and the price just isn't worth it. Some of them are as expensive as $300, $500, $800, and don't get me wrong, I will pay for a high quality product, but it still has to do the job, and in this case, it does neither the job nor is particularly affordable. So what do I recommend? I suggest one of these three products. A duct tape dress form. You can make one to fit your body, and it'll have your own body's eccentricities. Like if you have jutting shoulder blades like me that make it hard to fit your shoulders, it'll mirror that. If you're asymmetrical, it'll mirror that. Also, if you fill it with polyfill like I do, it'll be nice and squishy so you can corset it up to whatever decade corset you're making. It costs somewhere between $15 and $45 depending on how much you want to splurge, and whenever it starts getting run down, you can just make another one and reuse the stuffing. It's pinnable, but keep in mind that any pins you put in it will get sticky and gross, and you'll probably only end up using those pins for just that dress form. Another one that I do recommend is a bootstrap dress form. This is one where you put in your measurements on a computer, you fill out a form online, and then you get a pattern and you sew it up. It honestly works beautifully, and I used to have one that fit me quite well. It's probably around $60 to $75 all in all to make, between the fabric, the zipper, the pole, the pattern, etc. And it basically turns your body into a giant plushie. You can corset it up for whatever period you're working on, and I generally love it. It works well, but keep in mind that while the measurements are right, it's quite durable. It will not have the asymmetry and not take your own body's little quirks. For instance, my jutting shoulder blades, nope. Have to build it into my patterns later. The third one I love is a custom dress form. That's what you see here and here. These are quite expensive, but I put in the money because I use it all the time. These I make by scanning in my body while wearing a corset, and then Beatrice dress forms will actually turn the 3D scan that you take of your body and turn it into a 3D model, which they then cut out of foam. It fits your body measurements perfectly, and you even have the option of having arms made for them as well, so you can fit your shoulders perfectly. These are not compressible, so what I have here is an 1880s corset body and a 1780s here, because those are my two favorite decades. These are pricier and start around 1500, 1600. It's definitely a splurge, so but it's not something you absolutely need to get started. This is just what I personally use. Those are the different ways, and I hope I've touched upon every budget out there. Now, once you have a dress form, you corset it up to whatever period you want. I suggest putting on the corset yourself and taking your bust, waist, and hip measurements before putting it on your duct tape or cloth dress form, and then lacing the corset up to the same measurement as yourself. Once you do that, it's time to draw in the design. Of course, you can invent one, or if you have a museum photo that you like, you can copy the lines that you see of the dress on the dress form, which is what I've done for that one here. Or if you have a book that shows you the seam lines, you can use it as a guide to make your own. In this case, I really wanted a Victorian vest that would fit on an 1880s corset. It's actually an 1890s dress, but the corset's pretty similar in shape from the 1870s to the 1890s. And I wanted to wear it with my black and white striped outfit that I'm making. I'm making this vest. I draw it with black paper tape, noting that it's high contrast against the dress form. Whatever you do, I suggest high contrast so you could see it through the muslin. And I also put in a dart right here. And then I get a small piece of muslin or other non-stretchable fabric and pin it on the dress form all around the pattern piece as close to your drawing as possible. Where I want the dart, I fold the fabric to make the dart and pin it in. Then I get my pencil and trace the lines where I see it. I try to remember which side of the line I use, whether it's all on the left side or all on the right side or all towards the bodice or all towards the back, so I don't trace the line twice and thus add 1/8 of an inch to the pattern pieces. Not that that's a huge deal, but it can add up. After the piece has been traced, I will label it, draw in the grain line, and unpin it. Note that at present it has no seam allowances, and that's on purpose. I then do this for all pieces of the bodice. I then take it off the dress form and put in seam allowances where I will attach it to other pieces. Since I want my mock-up to not have the seam allowance at the neck and edges so I could distinguish it better, I do this so I don't have to imagine the neckline or where the bottom is. I know exactly where it is. I then make a mock-up and put it on my dress form to make sure it looks right. I will often use the stage to make sure it fits about as well and kind of play with it a little bit and then put it on myself afterwards. I can basically do this with any bodice. As long as I can have a dress form that I can drape on, that I can make something for it. So this is me doing it for an 1780s red and goat, this one. And this red and goat has long been a favorite. I made one for myself back in 2019 while I was breastfeeding actually. However, since then I have had many would call gender affirming breast augmentation surgery, or more commonly known as a boob job. So a lot of my outfits pre-2022 no longer fit at all. However, since it was one of my favorite things that I've ever made, I want it back. I decided to make it for myself again. and make it more museum accurate this time as well. In this case, I used reference photos I got from the Rijksmuseum as a base, and then also used a cut of women's clothes by Nora Watt to fill in where it would otherwise be. I taped the shapes onto my Beatrice dress form with the 1780s corset on, and then used cotton muslin to cut out the shapes. You'll notice I put in side panels to add to the skirt fullness below the waist. I made a mock-up from this and I honestly love it. There's a reason it's behind me proudly. Afterwards, I scanned in my bodice pieces that I drafted, just digitizing embroidery on Palette 11 software for digitizing embroidery, and started stitching the whole thing out on my baby lock venture. There will be more of these videos coming. I don't even know which one I'm gonna do next, but for now, I did want to show how beautifully this embroiders out, especially on the pattern that I basically just drafted in front of you. So there you go, how to draft a pattern. By the way, while this video doesn't have an official sponsor per se, I did want to show off this dress company that I found this month. This one's called Son de Fleur. I've been really admiring them for a while, but I'm just so impressed by their quality. They have a full circle skirt, bishop sleeves, and their hem and sewing is so immaculate. Like, look at this hem. Who even has hems like this anymore? I love how they fit. They're all full circle skirts with incredibly large, comfy pockets. They have incredibly high quality fabric and sewing. The linen is fantastic. You can machine, wash, and tumble them. Anyways, I just want to give them a shout out. If you use code SEWSCENE15, you will get 15% off this month. That's what I recommend. I hope this video is really helpful, and thank you for watching. There will be a more normal video back next month in June. I have so many amazing projects that I'm working on right now.